All right, so here we go again. As far as this appearance of diplomacy and victory and success, me personally, I don't really buy it. Maybe it's true. Maybe I'm just too much of a pessimist um, about this, because, like I said before about the Syria deal with Russia basically brokering it, was that it's going to leave Syria without the ability to defend themselves, possibly, right? Maybe they got something better in the works. Maybe they know something that we don't. But it's going to make it easier for the West to carry out airstrikes, mostly guided by Israel, um, without having to worry about the side effects of chemical weapons, attacking all those sites and stuff like that. It's making they're clearing the road for an all-out attack on Syria, if need be. Iran now is agreed to this deal recently, which basically says that they're going to reduce their higher enriched uranium. I think it's like 20%. And for them to do that, because they do that, if they abide by it, that they're going to reduce sanctions. So this is a big moneymaker for Iran to do that. So again, I'm seeing the same thing as far as this is a victory. They both see it as a victory. Assad somehow, and the government in Syria said that somehow they were victorious and that this was a great thing for them. Israel enraged by a nuclear deal. So Israel's supposed to be enraged. So it was the greatest diplomatic victory of Iran, says, I believe, one of Iran's prime ministers or something like that said that. Greatest victory for Iran. Hezbollah says nuclear deal added to our nation's victories. So kind of like the best slave is the one that doesn't know he or she is a slave. The best victory is one that's actually a loss. I'm just throwing this out there to see what happens down the road. Israel slams Iran nuclear deal as a historic mistake. So historic victory, historic mistake. I wanted to mention that, just kind of stepping back and looking at all of this, and we talked about the recent operations being carried out that were planned, it was talked about before a month ago, or almost a month ago, 3 weeks ago, about carrying out operations against Iran. So then we had the Iranian embassy get blown up in Lebanon. You had a few political figures in Iran get picked off, I think abducted, assassinated. So it almost makes me wonder that this was another good guy, bad guy thing or tactic that was played, basically Russia being the good guy and the U.S. being the bad guys. And it seems like here that the U.S. is playing the good guys and Israel is playing the bad guys. This, of course, all helps out Israel if Iran follows through with it. But somehow they're acting as if they disagree with this. They don't approve of it. I think this is all a show, whether there's the bombings, the assassinations, abductions against Iran, to make it think that, if Israel's against this and they're carrying this out, this deal with the West, then maybe we better go ahead and sign on to it. And it's like I mentioned before, Iran had a deal with, I believe it was just solely the eastern countries, to scale some nuclear activity down, and those talks failed, supposedly because of Israel. And all of a sudden, these ones pass. I think if the Zionists and Jews want to get what they want, they'll get what they want when they want. Usually, I think that's how it happens, because they're pretty slick at what they do. Another way to look at this, and I wanted to, this is mostly what I'm going to cover here, because this is kind of a big deal, is how I'm seeing this as far as a victory, a loss, a mistake. I think it sucks, because what we're talking about here is keeping the system going, keeping the current power system going. Whether it's Russia, I know people like to act like the People's Republic of China is actually for the people, that the Russian Federation is for ethnic Russians and the best for them. Yeah, they'll do some things that are good for them, allow some liberties or enforce some type of social policy a lot better than, say, the United States or these other Zionist-occupied countries. But for the most part, the people don't really have a say, whether they want to call it, communism or democracy or fascism or whatever. They're not really having a say. They're not participating in anything. And so, with this deal getting passed, basically what we're looking at is a further extension of the financial and political system. Going back to this Fulford article, Benjamin Fulford, I know people say, oh, he's full of shit. Well, whatever. You got to pick and choose a little bits of information that you can get and try to connect the dots. That's what, quote, conspiracy theorists do, right? So his argument was that what was happening, with the jets appearing in China, the J.P. Morgan Chase bank being sold to the Chinese, all kinds of different deals being made, liquidation of assets, trying to shore up cash. Remember, this was all surrounding the whole government shutdown. And so besides making these deals or brokering them with the Chinese, it says here, the best guess for what lies behind all of this is that the U.S. branch of the Feds sold the largest bank in the U.S. Chinese interests in order to keep their empire teetering on for a few more months. It says the other big source of emergency funding for the Feds appears to be Iran. So now we have, isn't it funny that all of a sudden we have this Iran thing if the government shut down, we're talking about this, the sudden warming of the relationship between the G7 countries and Iran is leading to the unfreezing of $50 billion in Iranian money, according to the Mossad-linked website Depka. No doubt this money is helping the Feds continue, I guess, the Rothschilds banking dynasty as well, to continue their scam a bit longer. So the diversion is somehow about a nuclear threat. You have Kerry even saying it's not based on trust. You have Natiano saying it's a big mistake. Natiano visiting Russia. This is on November 20th, lobbying against the Iranian deal. So they don't want it, right? It's bad for them. Natiano sends security advisor to U.S. for the Iran talks. UK tells Israel not to disrupt Iran deal as defiant Natiano comes under fire. It's like, are you effing kidding me? Seriously? Seriously, dude. Rothschild own the UK, they own Britain, they own their own little private country called Israel, and they basically own Wall Street, New York, right? New York, London, Tel Aviv, it's all the same. So we're just seeing a real big show, right? Congress threatens to derail Iran deal with new sanctions. So new sanctions, right? You got Zionist Chuck Schumer out there and Mendez and whoever this guy, I'd never heard of him. Chambly's, time for tougher Iran sanctions. Now's the time, right? But, it's like, wait a minute here. You have top Israeli ex-officials saying that they're praising the Iran deal. Yeah, that's right. The Israeli stock market soared, actually. We'll get into that. So they're praising it, this pact, saying it achieved much more than an Israeli attack on Iran could have. And that makes sense because they like using proxy terrorism and false flags instead of actually putting boots on the ground or attacking. I mean, Israel has no qualms with attacking. They've attacked Syria with airstrikes and that, and Lebanon and that over and over, and nobody said anything. So, but my point is again, like Syria, it's like getting on your knees and putting your hands up and saying, see, we won. We defended ourselves as you're basically being subdued. Again, like Syria, they were being accused of carrying out these chemical attacks against civilians. Well, this wasn't so. We know that. So they're admitting to guilt, false admission of guilt, something they didn't do, by agreeing to that deal. And then again with Iran, they're admitting to enriching uranium. Well, the whole time they're saying they weren't building any kind of nuclear weapons. Like I said, it would come back to where they are, and they have the inherent right to do so. But so now again, another admission of guilt. See, again, double standards. You have John Kerry, who's also actually part Jewish here. We know where his loyalties lie, saying we do not recognize a right to enrich. So, but they allow Israel. So another Israeli analyst says Iran unlikely to breach interim deal. They didn't sign it to break it. So it's this one Yadlin guy. A military strike could hardly achieve more. So again, this is kind of reiterating what we were saying. Iran announces plan to build 2 more nuclear power plants. New sites in accordance with government programs comes as the world powers in Tehran work to finalize its nuclear deal, so they can go ahead and do it. And that's the split that we're talking about. This spin in the media said it's very important Kerry had to say this so that he could appease the Israeli lobby, the U.S. Congress, the Wahhabi petrodollar lobby in the U.S., not to mention some neocons, that's Jewish bankers and that, in the U.S. as well, who are still very powerful. And Iran is different. They're saying we still have a right to enrich uranium, and this is correct, because they will keep enriching over the next 6 months. So the guy being interviewed, Pepe Escobar from RT, says that I'm sure Iran won't break their promises. It's in their own interest to not break any promises. You have the French foreign minister saying that the European Union's willing to lift some Iran sanctions, and they basically ruled out an Israeli strike. But all options are on the table. U.S. envoy assures the Zionist Israel that attacking Iran is still an option. So hours after the deal, the ambassador is still talking up war. And why would they be doing this? Maybe that's the intention, is you get rid of their arms and then you go ahead and strike them. Again, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just not seeing what's actually happening. Maybe this is a good thing. Israelis secretly inspect Saudi bases and possible staging ground for strikes against Iran from the 24th. Who knows if this is actually accurate, but Israeli personnel in recent days were in Saudi Arabia to inspect bases that could be used as a staging ground to launch attacks against Iran. The official said Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, and other Arab Gulf countries have been discussing the next steps towards possible strikes on Iran's nuclear sites. I only included it because we were talking about the Saudi-Israeli kind of alliance going on here. Maybe a form of desperation. Remember this article? Saudi Arabia targeting Iran and Israel with ballistic missiles. This is new satellite photography shown by military experts at the Telegraph, and this was a while ago, actually, July 2013. But like I said, I think it's a loss, because these countries, if they are actual sovereign nations, they're not going to be able to defend themselves as much or have much sway. They'll have financial power, which is good, but these sanctions are punishing the people who don't have a say. And like I said, I wondered, oh man, I never understand Russia or Iran. Are they actually part of the New World Order? Are they whatever? And I'm like, well, as long as the people are not free, and as long as the people are being forced into a system like they're living under, then it doesn't really matter. It's like any other place on the earth. It's about money, follow the money. So how lobby interests are spinning the Iran nuclear deal. Israeli stock market soars on nuclear news. So, but Netanyahu's saying, oh, this is a big mistake. Israeli markets gain. Investors say Iran deal was not a mistake. U.S. stocks open higher on Iran deal. So 0.8%, right? 0.08% in the U.S. The dying dollar, the Federal Reserve and the Wall Street assassinate the U.S. dollar. So you'll see that in these types of alternative media realms, that the dying dollar, right? So the system needs to collapse, and people want to keep it going. Somehow they keep this fear going. It's right around the corner, right? Right around the corner. Oh, by the way, here's some gold. If you want to buy some gold and silver, you can buy it through me. I've got a commission. Relating this to China. China is quitting the U.S. dollar. We already knew this. I've covered it many, many times. The People's in China. The People's Bank of China says no longer in China's interest to increase foreign reserves. The country does not benefit anymore from increasing its foreign currency holdings, adding to signs policymakers will rein in the dollar purchases. Adding the signs, policymakers will rein in dollar purchases that limit the yuan's appreciation. They've been stacking up record amounts of gold, though. Then you have China's planned crude oil futures may be priced in yuan. I had a friend that said Obama's job in office was to keep the petrodollar going. Maybe his job now is because Saudi is weakening and U.S. is having record amounts of the most leading exporter or producer of oil and natural gas. Maybe that's his job, to kind of transition into that, a different type of petrodollar, energy dollar. But I do think he's the first multicultural president. That's what he promotes. China creates air defense zone over Japan-controlled islands. So like a no-fly zone. Japan's going to scale back their tank forces and focus on island defense. Ahead of the elections in India, ex-British soldiers have been arrested there. Last month, India seized an armed ship owned by a U.S. security firm. This is GGN, and thank you.